Welcome into today's Wednesday edition of Full Count Detroit. It's June 25th. The Detroit Tigers got the win last night over the Athletics. We'll talk about how they were able to accomplish that win. School gets his 50th career win. Tigers get the 50th win on the season. Tigers first to 50 in the entire MLB, and a huge milestone win for Tariq Skubal. The MVP will go into that a little bit, and an amazing defensive performance by that MVP. We'll go around the Central and how every other team lost their game. The Tigers were the only team in the AL Central to win. And then moving on to down on the farm, the West Michigan Whitecaps. Huge first half season from them, able to clinch a playoff spot along with a couple other teams who we'll talk about, but mainly the West Michigan Whitecaps. We'll talk about that prospects pool they have between Jose Briseño, who's the Tigers' number 4, Kevin McGonigal, who's the Tigers' number 2, and then Max Clark, who's the MLB number 7 and Detroit Tigers number 1. Moving on, we'll go on to those relief pitchers who have been really great recently that the Tigers may be able to go out and acquire with a struggling bullpen that Detroit has. And then we'll move on to our game preview and home run picks for tonight's game between Flaherty and Lopez. Getting into last night's game, the Tigers and Skubal, a little bit of a rain delay, 81 minutes, nothing the Tigers haven't dealt with over the last week and a half-ish. But Tariq Skubal pitched solid. I don't think it was an amazing outing by any means, especially of his standards. But the A's have been a team he struggled with in his career. Not great against the Athletics. Allows those 2 home runs. Denzel Clark gets his middle to make it a 4-2 ball game. But before that, Jacob Wilson draws the walk. It's his 13th of the season, 13th walk. And then Brent Rooker strikes gold, gets the middle fastball for a home run. But Kerry Carpenter answers the bell. He mashes a middle fastball 3-0, sends that one out to the right field seats. That was a huge home run for Kerry Carpenter. He was 2 for 33, down to a 246 batting average. Not great couple weeks for Kerry Carpenter, but he really needed that home run. There's a lot of guys on this Tigers team who need home runs like that, and he was one of them. He was able to mash one last night. Parker Meadows, another guy who needs one. He was 0 for last night, but a guy who was not 0 for, Riley Green, 4 for 5 game. Huge double there as he's able to get in, drive some runs in, played really amazing, and how he's really been able to play over the last week. We talked about it a lot yesterday between me and Isaac. Today it's solo dolo, but Riley Green really playing great. Luis Severino, the .73 ERA on the road bumped all the way up to a 2.7 or 2.27. He's now got allowed 7 runs last night. Not a great outing from Luis Severino. Tigers were able to get him out of that one early and got to that A's bullpen who was really struggling. Tigers piled 4 on that bullpen. Just an error there from the catcher in the late goings of that game allowed Perez and Green to score. Huge for those two guys getting in right there. But we will jump right into the game. A little bit going into the third inning, back-to-back doubles between Perez and Green, but that was before Torres was able to single, who got on, able to drive him in there. But a huge knock from Wenzel. Huge knock. Very timely hitting from the kid. Great hitting. And then we'll jump Dylan Dingler. 3-run bomb in that third inning. He got it 106 mile per hour exit velo, crushes it 390 towards the Little Caesars man. Didn't get it in there, but it was a huge home run for the Tigers. And then in the seventh inning, 2 amazing defensive plays by Wenzel Perez. A night to remember defensively for him. He ended the game with a nice diving play as well. But those were 2. The one spinning throw right there to Baez, perfect throw from the right fielder Wenzel, and he made it. I mean, it was amazing. He was nasty and right. The former infielder, last spring training, he was an infielder, believe it or not. And it's crazy to say that he's now playing outfield in the major leagues at one of the tougher ballparks. There's a lot of ground to cover out there in right field and pretty much all over the outfield at Comerica Park. But he was really playing great, and that's why he is our Tuesday night MVP, going 2 for 4. He's batting 307 on the season, 2 RBIs last night. Great game from Wenzel Perez. He really played amazing and was able to dominate that A's team. Got to Severino, played great defensively. He was able to gun out Wilson, and I believe the other one was Brent Rooker who he gunned out. But those were great plays from the guy. Moving on to news and injury updates, we'll have a graphic up on your screen right about now between the guys rehabbing and the guys who are still injured. Alex Lange continues his rehab assignment in AAA. He pitched last night. Reese Olson expected to pitch tonight. Matt Vierling still rehabbing down there in Toledo. But Lange had a 4.34 ERA last season, 18 innings pitched, Should be, I mean, he was okay at the end of last year, or okay last year, but go back 2 years ago, he was really dominant for this that Tigers team. It was a great closer, was a reliable guy, and he's kind of like what Vest is right now, where you've seen Lange, you've seen Foley, and now Vest in the last 3 years become those closer roles, and Tommy Kahnle kind of a little bit in that closer role. The Tigers don't have a solidified closer, but hopefully Alex Lange can come back and be great next season, or going into this season. I should say later in the season. Reese Olson, 2.96 ERA and almost 50 innings pitched this season. He's expected to pitch tonight for Toledo. Matt Vierling had a slash line of 257 with an OBP of 312 and then an OPS of 735 with 16 bombs last season. He was a key contributor to that postseason run last year. We saw that quite a bit. And getting Vierling back would be huge for this team. But yeah, a good bat, Matt Vierling, and I think really a guy. If you see Vierling come up pretty soon, and I think it's really much the end of the run right now for Trey Sweeney. I wouldn't say the end of the road in general, but I think his run right now in Detroit is coming to a close, and I think he's going to go back down to AAA and have to redo some things down there, and maybe he can get back up on this major league team. But Trey Sweeney, the way he's been playing ball recently, has not been great. He's been a solid defensive guy, okay defensive guy, but he's really not amazing like we really expected him to be going into this season. But yeah, Sweeney, I think he'll probably get sent down for Matt Vierling, as Vierling will probably come up pretty soon. Same thing, I expect Olson probably to be up next week for that either that first Nationals game or that second Nationals game on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. But we'll move it around the AL Central. The Detroit Tigers, the only team to get a victory in the Central this week. Cleveland lost 10, or I should say yesterday. Cleveland lost 10-6. KC loses 5-1. They're on a 3-game losing streak. Minnesota on a 5-game losing streak. They lose to Seattle 6-5. Chicago loses 4-1 to Arizona. There was something I saw on social media that I think I should talk about here for a little second. But Ketel Marte crying on the field, a little backstory on that. There was a fan that ended up making fun of his mother's death, and there's just no spot for that in sports really at all. But I thought I'd just mention that, and the it was not nice whatsoever, I should say. I mean, that's really the only way. It was really a nasty comment from that fan. Fan was ejected after, but just not a very good comment. There's no spot for that in sports whatsoever. But we'll move it around down the farm. This week it's the West Michigan Whitecaps who will get the spotlight. Next week we'll probably cover either Erie or Toledo. But we'll talk a little bit about those teams, Erie and Toledo, right now, and Lakeland as well. Lakeland able to win the first half of that Florida State League West Championship Division, or West Division. Man, that was a lot to say, and I said it wrong. They clinched a playoff spot though in that first half, along with a lot of these other teams. West Michigan wins the first half Midwest League East by clinching a playoff spot as well. Erie won the first half in the Eastern League Southwest, clinching a playoff spot. Toledo, one of the only teams in the farm system to not clinch a playoff spot. They finished fifth in the International West League, going 39-36. But we'll dive into a team that is dominant, playing amazing ball right now. The West Michigan Whitecaps have been outstanding, and they have a lot of guys on this roster. They have 4 guys in the top 30 for the Detroit Tigers. Briseño, Matson, Clark, and Magano, who are all playing amazing. But complying a 48-21 record, I believe, with almost a 700 win percentage, the best record in the Midwest League East by far. They clinched that first half division, and this is a team that probably won't be together come by playoff time, where you'll probably see at least Briseño and McGonigal go up. It's hard to say what they want to do with Max Clark with how young he is, and he's hit a little bit of a slump, but he's still playing really good ball. Back-to-back home runs the other day, but they've dominated the recent series between they won last night against the Lake County Captains, able to get a series win over the Lugnuts and the Timber Rattlers. But they're winning 10 out of their last 12, including back-to-back series, like I just said, over the Timber Rattlers and Lugnuts. This is a really good team with a lot of future, and I think diving into a team like West Michigan, there's a lot to say about this team. And there's a graphic right now on your screen if you're on YouTube of this team, and they're just playing amazing ball right now. They had an expected win-loss ratio of almost 50 wins. 50-18 was their expected win-loss ratio, where you're tying into the run differential. They had a plus 150 run differential. But that was a team playing amazing ball right now, and there's a lot to look forward to in this Detroit Tigers farm system. And the Whitecaps hitting at high A right now, that is one of them. But they might have to trade some prospects. Trade deadline talk, it is the relievers we're talking about today. Jake Bird, an option. Ryan Helsley, an option. Yanir Cano, an option. Felix Bautista, an option. Aroldis Chapman, who's having the best season of his career almost. He's an option. And you got Pete Fairbanks. There's a lot of those guys. There's three guys that I just mentioned who are going to be free agents after this year. Obviously, rental between Pete Fairbanks, Aroldis Chapman, and Ryan Helsley right now. But Aroldis Chapman, a 1.41 ERA. That guy is playing amazing ball right now, pitching with dominance. That's a guy who's been talked about for the last, ever since he came over from Cuba. The Cuban missile. He's been tossing the ball fast, throwing it insane. It's just so impressive how fast he threw the ball. When you really look at baseball right now, there's a lot of flamethrowers, but he was really the origin of that flamethrower, that back end bullpen guy who's coming out and he's throwing 105. That's something we haven't really seen. We've seen a little bit with Ben Joyce with the Angels, but Aroldis Chapman throwing 105. He's obviously not touching that anymore, but he's still 37 years old and he's having one of the most dominant seasons of his career with a whip of point 0.8 or 0.781. And then moving on, we'll move on to Pete Fairbanks, another guy who's going to be a free agent after this year. This is a guy who's been dominant, 2.5 or 2.15 ERA with a 1.16 whip. Pete Fairbanks, 31 years old. That's going to be an option for the Tigers. Probably don't re-sign him after the season. You're probably a guy who you're going to let walk, along with Ryan Helsley, who's got a 3.64 ERA and a 1.44 whip. He's going to be a free agent as well after this season. Those three guys who are guys who can go out and you can really have a playoff push. And I think that's exactly what the Tigers need. Seeing like Brisky has been dominant. He's down AAA. Holton's been inconsistent. Brant Hurter, who we talked about the other day, who's having a rough patch. There's a lot of guys in this bullpen who are having rough patches right now. And I think a guy like Helsley or Chapman are two flamethrowers that can help that back into the bullpen, right? You have Vest and you have Canely right now, but Vest throws a decent amount. He's a high speed type of guy. Canely more of that changeup guy. He really defines the point of a changeup with how many times he throws it. But those two, between Helsley and Chapman, those are both back end guys. Pete Fairbanks, a little bit of back end guy. You can see him as a seventh inning type of role, along with a guy like Jake Bird. Yanir Cano, as well as one of the ones I mentioned. Those two guys are both going to be free agents in 2029. Yanir Cano, 31 years old. Jake Bird, 29. Yanir Cano actually in AAA right now. If you remember a couple seasons ago, I believe he was an all-star with his Baltimore Orioles team. But he's got a 4.73 ERA. Obviously, there's a reason not playing as good as ball. Able to find a little bit of hot streak before he got sent down to AAA. Hopefully, he's doing a little bit better. And I believe it's Norfolk who they have as their AAA affiliate. They might be AA. But yeah, Yanir Cano, another Orioles guy, Felix Bautista. If you remember him, he was an all-star a couple of years ago. He's 30 years old, going to be a free agent in 2028 with a 2.7 ERA and a whip of 1.13. That is a guy who's playing really good ball as well right now. Same along with Jake Bird, who's got a 2.06 ERA and a whip of 1.19. He's going to be a free agent in 2029, like I said. Those last three guys that I mentioned, Bird, Cano, and Bautista, they're definitely obviously going to have higher asking prices because they have more team control versus guys like Helsley, Chapman, and Fairbanks, who are all going to be done right, or I should say, free agents after this season. But those are just six guys that I really think it's interesting to take a look at in the next couple of weeks for this Detroit Tigers team to keep your eye on, especially after that All-Star break. Chapman probably going to be an All-Star. Pete Fairbanks potentially an All-Star. Jake Bird could also be an All-Star. He's one of those Rockies bright spots. Him and Hunter Goodman both bright spots on that Rockies team. But I'll switch it over. Game preview tonight. We've got the Athletics again. This is a game that was very interesting last night. We talked about it a little bit before, but this Athletics team, they're going to have Lopez on the mound tonight versus Flaherty. Flaherty's struggling those last couple outings. Jacob Lopez for the Athletics. Good last three outings. He's 1-4 on the season with a 4.25 ERA and a whip of 1.44. Good strikeout to walk ratio, 49 strikeouts to 16 walks. Jack Flaherty, 93 strikeouts to 31 walks. But Flaherty, 15 home runs allowed on the season. That is a lot. But he also has double the amount of innings pitched as Jacob Lopez. Flaherty 5-8 with a 4.83 ERA. Excuse me, but yeah, I think this is going to be an intriguing matchup tonight. The lefty versus righty again. Another matchup where if you're going to look at this from a standpoint, Brent Rooker last night, the righty, able to crush the lefty and Tariq Skubal. This is a game where I think Jack Flaherty has a really good chance at turning around this season. It's been a rough couple last two outings, I should say. 15 earned runs. We talked about him last week on the chill out or panic segment of the show. This is a guy who I think is it's going to be intriguing matchup for Jack Flaherty. I think this is one of those games where if you're going to watch tonight, that's one of your guys to watch. You got to watch how Flaherty handles this athletics team. This is a very sneaky athletics team. We saw a guy like Denzel Clark hit a home run last night. He's not a real home run threat in the pros. He had 16 home runs out there at Cal State Fullerton when he was in college. But just looking at it right now, when you're looking at this roster and this lineup segment for the Athletics, Jacob Wilson could be a potential threat to Jack Flaherty. You got Lawrence Butler's a threat. Brent Rooker was a threat last night to Scuba, but that's lefty righty. Jacob Wilson bumped that over 350. We were talking about him at 349 yesterday. He's now at 353. Tyler Soderstrom also 14 home runs, 45 RBIs. This is a roster that definitely could sneak up on Jack Flaherty, and I think that's what he caught against Cincinnati was a very sneaky roster that came up and they just dominated against Jack Flaherty. You had a couple guys hit home runs who don't usually hit home runs for that Cincinnati roster, but that was definitely a sneaky outing right there, I should say. I've been saying that word a lot today. But yeah, I mean, Riley Green, he's been dominant recently, but it's going to be tough lefty. Lefty found a stat today, though. Riley Green has 45 RBI since May 1st, second in the American League behind Cal Raleigh, who's got 50. And if you know baseball, Cal Raleigh is mashing the baseball right now. And is batting 349 with 18 hits and 17 RBIs over the last 10 games. This is a Tigers team who's found their secret weapon. It was last year it was pitching chaos. Also last year, you know what it was? Taking the extra bases. The second highest extra base rate of extra bases taken, I should say, in MLB history. 54.1% right behind the 1975 Athletics. That was a team who ended up signing an Olympic sprinter who came in, didn't pick up his glove, didn't pick up a bat, came in, got some cleats, ran the bases. He appeared in 118 games. Can't remember the name off the top of my head, but yeah, that was an athletics team that had an Olympic sprinter, and yeah, that guy could definitely run the base as well. But I think tonight this is a team that I think the Tigers. This is a matchup where if the Tigers are going to lose a game this series, I think it's going to be this game. Flaherty's really got to find it, though. I think I have hope for Flaherty to find it tonight, and if Flaherty's going to want to find it, keep it going the rest of the season, this is a game where he's got to find it. There's some tough matchups coming up. I believe he would in is scheduled to pitch against the Washington Nationals next week, which is another one where you have back-to-back slightly easier opponents, although it's the major leagues and nobody's really that easy to play against. These are two matchups between the Athletics and the Nationals who are struggling younger rosters who I think Jack Flaherty may be able to take advantage of tonight. But I know a guy who might be able to take advantage of another young guy. Spencer Torkelson is my home run pick for tonight. I expect him to get number 17 off Jacob Lopez. The righty lefty matchup favors Spencer Torkelson, although Lopez not giving up a whole lot of home runs. I think if Spencer Torkelson's probably going to be batting in the 5 or 4 hole tonight. If he's able to get on with a runner on, who knows who will be ahead of him? Maybe Wenzel Perez, who had a great game last night, may be ahead of him. But I think Spencer Torkelson strikes number 17 and strikes gold, and the Tigers are able to get win number 51 tonight with Jack Flaherty on the mound. But that does it for Full Count Detroit. You're home for everything Detroit Tigers. Down from Lakeland to Comerica, we have you covered. Happy Wednesday and almost July. One of the best months, the 4th of July, almost among us. We thank you for listening here at Full Count Detroit. Have a great and wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you tomorrow for a Thursday recap and a little bit more.